The Senate will come to order. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bills to be made special orders for immediate consideration: House File 2796 and Senate File 4564.
Okay, members, the first bill up for consideration is House File 2796. I will go to Senator Cran. Members, we are working off the first unofficial engrossment of House File 2796. To the bill, Senator Cran.
Thank you, Mr. President. House File 2796 is the contract ratification bill. And what this bill does is it's a responsible way to honor, respect, and preserve our vital workforce. With a $2.5 million deficit and more than 600,000 Minnesotans on unemployment, this is not the time to raise the pay of the state employees. Everyone needs to tighten their belt and work together. The contracts were negotiated in good faith and under completely different circumstances. We've asked the governor to bring the contracts back to the negotiating table and do the right thing. We have to make sacrifices when facing a deficit. The global COVID-19 pandemic has infected 14,000, almost 15,000 people to date and has killed almost 700,000 or 700 of our fellow citizens. We are now in the 7th week of the Governor Walz stay-at-home order that shut down many of our businesses, some which may never return. Over 650,000 Minnesotans today have applied for unemployment insurance and may have lost their jobs for good. Minnesota Senate canceled scheduled pay raises for our employees this year to institute a hiring freeze after the session. The projected state surplus of $1.5 billion quickly downgraded to $2.4 billion after the first of its kind interim forecast published by the Minnesota Management Budget on May 5th of 2020. We're trying to avoid future layoffs. State employees, and we're trying to avoid future layoffs of state employees and protect the jobs we have, but we need the governor and the union leaders to come to the table. By refusing to negotiate, the governor and the House are unnecessarily putting the current pay for the state employees at risk. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing. We can stop the pay raise and preserve the current jobs and benefits that the employees already have. I want to speak directly to the rank and file. Union members, I believe you deserve the raises and benefits increases included in these contracts. But in light of the recent events, the proposed contracts are not sustainable, and if approved, will lead to greater employee layoffs next year. And I don't want that to happen. If we are all in this together, everyone needs to do their part and get through these difficult times. With that, Mr. President, what the bill does do is it also preserves the entire benefits package that are negotiated in the contract. It preserves the COLA increase for the year one of the contract, including those contracts that were negotiated later in the year and may be paid out during this later part of the fiscal year, and all step increases for both years of the contract. And with that, Mr. President, I'd like to move the A50 amendment.
Senator Cran offers the A50 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Cran moves to amend the unofficial engrossment of House File number 2796 as follows, page 1, line 8. This is the A50 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Cran.
Mr. President, I'd also like to move the A6 amendment to the amendment.
Senator Cran offers the A6 amendment to the A50 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment to the amendment.
Senator Cran moves to amend the Cran amendment to House File number 2796 as follows, page 1 after line 2, insert. This is the A6 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Cran.
Thank you, Mr. President. And with the A5 amendment, what that portion of the amendment does is it provides a full ratification of the contract. What the A6 amendment does is it sets a financial standard and is tied to the economic recovery of Minnesota. So if our economy picks up and it restores and puts us back into the positive, it would restore those negotiated increases. And when the fund on the fund balance at the end of biennium ending in June 30th, 2021. If it's in the positive, it instructs the commissioner to pay those negotiated cost of living increases retroactively. Mr. President, and that is the bill.
Discussion on the A6 amendment to the amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. The members in the chamber, if you are an aye vote, please stand at your desk. Okay, you may be seated. Members in the chamber, if you're a no vote, please stand at your desk. Okay, you may be seated. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Any further discussion on House File 2796 as amended? Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. That was the amendment to the amendment, so now we're on the underlying amendment. So we are on the A50 amendment as amended. Any further discussion on the A50 amendment as amended? Seeing none, on the A50 amendment as amended, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Members, now we're back on House File 2796 as amended. Any further comments? The Secretary will give House File 2796 its third reading.
House File Number 2796, a bill for an act relating to state government ratifying a labor agreement and a compensation plan.
Third reading. Final discussion on the bill. Senator Isaacson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I am largely disappointed. And part of the reason I'm disappointed is that I think there's a narrative out there, and I've seen it in the mail and the emails I've received on kind of the merit and worth of our state employees. And I want to be clear that I think our state employees are worth every penny we give them and more. I want to be clear about the perception of what we've been going through as well over the last couple months, and the truth about how hard it's been on them to continue doing the things that we need them to do for the state to function. For example, one of the stories I've been hearing about is a corrections officer who, in the course of his duty early on, got COVID and quarantined himself to live in his fish house to stay away from his family. He is now better and back to work and working many, many hours beyond full time just to make sure we're covered while still living in the fish house because he doesn't know if he's making his family sick and he doesn't want to put them at risk. That's just one of the many stories we see of our state employees in places that are so important, especially when we look at our correctional officers. Another one is of teachers who are being retooled to be correction office guards. That's another situation that I think is unfortunate, and the reality they're stepping up to the plate for a job they never dreamed they'd do to take care of the people, take care of our state and keep it safe. There are numerous examples like this throughout our state of state employees doing valiant and important work. Part of why our state is so amazing is because of the amazing workforce we have. And I think they deserve every penny we can give them because of the hard work they're doing to keep our state in a good place, a safe place, a wonderful place to live. And so I think they deserve what their contract was fairly negotiated to be. They deserve that money because they do the hard work to make our state as wonderful as it is. And I hope that people can really think about that next time when they're thinking about state employees, because they are, in many ways, the backbone that keeps our state rolling. So, yeah, I just can't say enough positive stuff about state employees, and I hope that we'll keep that in mind as we cast our votes. Thank you.
Members, any final discussion on House File 2796 as amended? Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is late and it's been a long day, so I am going to be brief and just talk about the fact that this is a tale of two bills, if you will. One part of this bill, to a degree, would ratify the contracts, but the other part of the bill changes it. And the problem here is that the legislature is not in a position to change the terms. We are not parties to this negotiation. You cannot force two unwilling parties in a contract that they don't agree to. And that's what we would be doing if we were to proceed with this bill. Because it says, yep, we're going to agree to part of this contract, but we're going to impose our will and our determination on the rest of that contract in spite of what the people who are the actual parties to that contract said. And where this becomes a problem, and others in this chamber have been known to talk about this, is think about if this was another scenario, if it was not the governor of your party, and if the parties did not line up the way you want them to. This would be a really damaging precedent. This is a system that has been in place. It works. And we need to sustain it. And it goes back to the things that Senator Isaacson is talking about, because it works. The other parties who are not us, they do the work. They do the negotiations. Anytime you have a negotiation, you give a little here, you get a little there, and you come up to a final package deal. And what we're trying to do here is say, as people who are not party to this negotiation, no, this part of the package is going away, and it doesn't matter what that does in terms of upsetting the balance of the entire package. So in that spirit, it is too important that we follow the way this has been done, protect these workers. We have serious budget conversations ahead of us, and we will have those conversations. But for now, we need to ratify these contracts in the form that they are. Therefore, we need to not support House File 2796 because it would absolutely go against that. Thank you.
Further discussion on the bill? Sorry, she was on the phone. Senator Benson, would you like to speak? Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I just would like to remind the body that I think you, Mr. President, 2017 carried contracts that this body passed and gave raises. No fuss, no muss. Gave the raises that were negotiated. In 2018, Senator Rosen carried an historic stabilization of our pension program out of respect for the commitment that was made to state employees. And I anticipate that if we were facing a budget surplus, the conversation tonight would be very different, but there is no way the people negotiating the contract could have seen what was coming. Nobody foresaw what was coming. So this is the opportunity to say, let's take a pause. Let's honor the raises that have been given. Let's make sure the health care benefits are stable and available. But let's look forward until we know what our budget looks like. Let's take a pause. Part of the reason we don't know what our budget looks like is because we have seen an unprecedented collapse in employment in Minnesota. And that means we don't have income tax revenue. When we see we don't have income tax revenue, that means fewer people are earning money, or a lot of people are earning a lot less. Businesses are freezing, are laying off. You want to talk about healthcare workers? The Mayo Clinic had layoffs, furloughs. Allina, furloughs. Health Partners, furloughs. But the minute this peak comes back, every one of them is going to be here. But they're either getting paid less or nothing while their benefits are maintained. So this is about an opportunity for us to all be in this together and proceed with caution, because we don't know what the budget deficit's going to look like, members. When I came in as a freshman, we faced historic budget deficits, and the decisions were incredibly hard. And for those who plan to be back next year, you're going to want some breathing room and flexibility that giving a pause to the July pay increases would give you. I promise you, whoever's in the majority is going to wish that these pay increases had been paused. So regardless of how you vote tonight, we're going to face difficult decisions next fall. Let's give ourselves some breathing room, do right by the state employees if our economy takes off, and we end up having a surplus, then let's make them whole. So, Mr. President, I think Senator Curran has built a very fair bill. Fair for the people of Minnesota, fair for the employees of the state of Minnesota. And I encourage a green vote.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Curran.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this bill really does respect the employees. It is a bill to reflect the financial condition that the state in that was completely unexpected. I myself was represented a longtime member from 1983 to 2000 as a member of ASME, MAPE, and MMA. We had multiple contracts in difficult times, but those were predicted times or more manageable times, and nothing like today. Many contracts were 0-0 and 0-1. These unforeseen changes causing us to do something differently, and this is when leadership has to step up to do something responsible. Preserving the key components of this contract, not moving into draconian measures, preserving thousands of jobs. We know Senator Benson just mentioned the fiscal challenges that we're going to have come February. In California, the governor is leading a 10% pay cut across the board for all of their employees. That's not what we're asking for. What we're asking for is that the governor works with us and comes to the table and leads and makes sure that we preserve everything that we can, but to make sure to take this adjustment reflecting the dire financial situation that we're in. And again, this bill does protect as many employees as possible, and I urge a green vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, does anyone not know in Minnesota what we're facing right now? The storm that we are heading into, the battle against COVID-19, the 600,000 plus people that have been unemployed, the many hair salons and bar owners and restaurants that still aren't at work, the 20,000 people laid off down in Rochester in the medical industry. Everywhere we look, there is crisis. And none of us saw that happening a year ago. It was on nobody's radar that that's what was about to take place. Can we all agree that our state workers are great, and that they do great work? But if we look back at the last couple of years, I want to say that the last contract passed 56-10. Senator Jeremy Miller was the chief author of that. We had Senator Ralph, we had Senator Dames, 56-10, wide support. And then Senator Julie Rosen rolled up her sleeves and helped pass the reform to all the pensions for all the state contracts, all of their benefits. Their retirement benefits were taken care of to a tune of 2019 fiscal year $27 million. Fiscal year 2021 is $113 million that we rolled up our sleeves and got done. So this isn't about the fact that we don't appreciate the state workers. We really do. But we're trying to balance what are we facing right now. And so I appreciate that Senator Curran stepped up to the plate and said, we can find a way to give them the salary increases that they had last July and all the benefit changes, but we should not give them the raise this July, this upcoming July. And then in addition to that, if we're wrong, if in November it's not this huge deficit that we think is coming, the amendment says we'll give them the raise all the way back to July as well. So it's not about the great service that they do. It's recognizing that the economy that we're in is very, very serious, and we need to be proactive about what we're doing. And like others have mentioned, there are other states that have cut 5 and 10% of their agencies. They've said, look, we need to take action now. And I hope that our governor makes those same choices now, so that as we get into next year and have to balance that budget, that we've already taken the action. So, members, this is a fair bill. It's not something I think anybody in here wants to do, but it is fair as we look out at the horizon of what we're facing.
Members, we're on final passage of House File 2796 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, the secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. Room 206, members in room 206. Please come to the chamber to vote. I will now call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report no for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Champion.
Senator Champion votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Dietzick.
Senator Dietzick votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Franzen.
Senator Franzen votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Frentz.
Senator Frentz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes no. I will now call on Senator Benson to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Benson.
Mr. President, Senator Anderson B. votes aye.
Senator Anderson B. votes aye. Senator Benson.
Mr. President, Senator Anderson P. votes aye.
Senator Anderson P. votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Dames votes aye.
Senator Dames votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Senator Hall votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Senator Housley votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Ingebretson votes aye.
Senator Ingebretson votes aye.
Senator
Benson.
Newman. Senator Newman votes aye.
Senator Newman votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Senator Osmic votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Senjum votes aye.
Senator Senjum votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Westrom votes aye.
Senator Westrom votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 34 ayes and 33 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, the next bill up for consideration is Senate File 4564. Senator Rosen. Sorry, I lost the bill in my paper shuffle up here, so I'm going off the fly. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know the feeling. Members, Senate File 4564 is something that is very important dealing with the CARES Act. The Senate has taken the lead in figuring out how to thoughtfully distribute the federal funds from the CARES Act that came to Minnesota. And if you remember, members, back on 4/21, we passed the coronavirus relief account, Senate File 4486, where the monies in this account cannot be spent without the direct appropriation by law. So basically, that means the legislature is in charge of this money, and we passed that out of finance. And then we passed the Senate File 4563, which was the COVID-19 appropriation transfers to the federal funds out of finance, and that's the conversion bill. And then we have 4564, which is the appropriation of the Coronavirus Relief Fund for counties, cities, and towns, which is right before you. And it's very imperative that we get this bill moving before session adjourns, and hopefully the governor will sign it to get the needed aid out to the cities, counties, and towns, because the federal government was very quick to get this money out, the $2.186 billion that was appropriated from the federal government to Minnesota. And because of the population size of Hennepin County and Ramsey County of over 500,000, they received a direct appropriation of $317 million. Hennepin County has $221 million of that share, and Ramsey County $96 million. The Treasury guidelines from the feds recommended that no more than 45% of the total funds can be used for local distribution, leaving approximately $667 million for the remaining 85 counties. This bill is a good faith effort at distributing this $667 million fairly among the counties and cities, and we know that the local governments are facing large costs to purchase PPE, pay staff overtime, address workers' compensation claims, and so much more that they have before them. This bill is a priority, and as the governor has said, preparing the entire state is a priority, and we need to work quickly to get this money out to all local units of government who need it, whether they are preparing proactively for an outbreak or have already experienced a high volume of COVID-19 cases. Some of the key policy approaches, pieces in this is it provides a same level of support per capita to every county in the state and bases the distribution on the federal government's distribution of $174.50 per capita per head. And this is the same level of support for the Hennepin and Ramsey County appropriation. Members, look at this as a base level of funding per capita across the state so that every local government has a funding to be prepared and respond to COVID-19 cases. The formula recognizes that cities in Hennepin and Ramsey counties have yet to receive any distribution, and it does this by requiring Hennepin and Ramsey to share their resources with the cities in their county, and this is a fundamental fairness issue. Other counties must do exactly the same thing with their cities and townships. In some counties, Minnesota is more urbanized, and in others, they're more rural. And as a result, the government services and COVID-19 costs are shared to differing degrees depending on the blend of government services within a county. Therefore, it is important that the distribution of money to the local governments recognizes that every county and city are not the same. So the formula attempts to recognize these differences by subtracting the city and township aid from the initial amount provided each county. And in a county with few cities and towns, the formula provides more money per capita with county level government. And in counties where many people live in cities, the formula provides a blend of resources to the county and to the city and the township government. In all cases, county level government receives at least 50% of the money within the county. And in Senate File 4564, this provides $87 per capita for residents of cities and $25 per capita for residents of townships. And on a statewide basis, 56% of funding will go to counties and 44% of the funding will go to cities and towns. And Mr. President, I do have the A5 amendment.
Senator Rosen offers the A5 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Rosen moves to amend Senate File number 4564 as follows, page 2, lines 23 and 7. This is the A5 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And basically, it's a technical fix on some of the reference to the Coronavirus Relief Fund. And then it also removes the language requiring the local government to be, the original bill has it as a levy. If they use the money wrong, they have to pay it back through a levy. This amendment changes it to a 5-year payback from the government entity that has used the funds improperly.
Further discussion on the A5 amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, we're back on good news, Senator Rosen. Now I have 2 copies of the bill, so I won't lose it now. We're on Senate File 4564 as amended. Further discussion, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, this bill was crafted off of the 2018 census for city and for town and the 2019 census for county. Again, for the counties that are eligible, they receive $25 and a minimum of $2,500. For the city, it's a $5,000 minimum at $87 per head. And those 2 numbers are subtracted from the 174 for the county eligible. The distribution from the commissioner needs to be out by June 15th of 2020. The commissioner develops a system to make sure that the local governments can certify these expenses. And there is a local government collaborative agreement that they must share this money with the counties and or the cities and the townships. There is an expenditure time limit that this money should be spent by November 1st of 2020. If it's not spent and verified, then it goes back into the account and other cities, counties, and towns are eligible for the remaining money. And of course, this money would expire on December 30th of 2020. Also, it has the, as I said, the Hennepin County and Ramsey County distribution to cities and towns, and the repayment structure, which was the A5 amendment. Mr. President, I'd also just like to mention that there was a letter sent from my office to all the various organizations that have a stake in the game in this funding proposal, and they sent back letters of suggestions of where this money would be spent. So we have the League of Minnesota Cities, the Association of Metropolitan Municipalities, Metro Cities. We have, and there is a letter on your desk for that, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, Municipal Legislative Commission, the Minnesota Association of Townships, the League of Minnesota Cities, the Association of Minnesota Counties, the Minnesota Association of Small Cities, and the I said that one. So, Mr. President, I also have the A50 amendment.
Senator Rosen offers the A50 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Rosen moves to amend Senate File number 4564 as follows, page 1 after line 5 insert. This is the A50 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, we've looked at this CARES Act in a 3-part series, and this amendment deals with the first piece that has marched through the Senate and is now before you, and it's the coronavirus relief account. And under current law, federal funds from the CARES Act are deposited into the state treasury and subject to a review process by the LAC, the Legislative Advisory Commission. So this amendment would create a new account, and monies from this CARES Act are not appropriated unless by law. And we think it's very important that the legislature is in charge of this money and not the commissioner through an LAC process. And the funds must be paid to pay for expenses that are incurred by the state related to the COVID-19. And when the funds in the account are spent, MMB is instructed to close the account. And just as a reminder, Mr. President and members, the LAC is something that has been created and never really looked back or looked at as far as is it effective. I think it was 1997 it was created. It's 6 legislators, the majority leader, the chair of finance, and the appropriate chair for that finance division. And then, of course, the appropriate mirrors in the House, the speaker, the chair of Ways and Means, and the appropriate finance chair for that division. No minorities. It is only a single member. A single member can force a review, but there's no way of stopping the expenditure. And it's somewhat clunky, as I've heard it called many times, the LAC. And that's why I believe that it's very appropriate for the legislature to have their hands on the appropriation of this CARES Act going forward. So with that, Mr. President and members, that is the A50 amendment.
Any discussion on the A50 amendment? Senator Bingham?
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Chair Rosen yield for a question?
Senator Rosen will yield. Senator Bingham?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm wondering, Chair Rosen, if this would include the appropriation to Hennepin and Ramsey County, because it was technically appropriated to the state and then told that that was carved out because they were cities above 500,000. Would that be included in what they haven't spent? Would that be included and brought into this account then?
Senator Rosen?
That would just be part, thank you, Mr. President and Senator Bingham. That would just be part of the entire CARES Act. And I do need to find. I'm looking for my response. So, Mr. President, thank you, Senator Bingham. I'm actually not certain about that. I do know if the question has arisen, if there's anything in the CARES Act or the Treasury guidance that prevents a state from requiring local governments that received a direct CRF, Coronavirus Relief Fund distribution from the Treasury, to allocate that distribution with other local governments. And the answer is there is nothing in the federal statute that prohibits sharing down. The Treasury's position is they gave the money to the chief executive officer of the state, and each state has its own rules about how the funds are received and distributed. And how the funds are distributed beyond that is a matter for local officials and policymakers to determine, as long as it is used in the appropriate way within the appropriate period.
Senator Bingham?
So as far as I can determine, Mr. President, excuse me, and Senator Bingham.
Senator Rosen.
Sorry, it has not been brought into the account.
Senator Bingham?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know seniority has its privileges here, and so when she speaks, I stop. Mr. President, actually, it's not a question. Mr. President, I believe that the appropriation already directly went into the Treasury of Hennepin and Ramsey County, so this amendment would not be able to claw back any of their funds. I really would hate for us ever to interfere with a direct appropriation from the federal government, because if their money went already to the Treasury, then that would mean it's already appropriated, and we probably wouldn't be able to tell them what to do with it if they've already received it at the direction of the federal government. But I think for now that's it, and then I just have some general comments on the bill once we get moving.
Further discussion on the A50 amendment? Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request a roll call on the A50, please.
A roll call has been requested. Roll call will be granted.
Thank you. If Senator Rosen would yield.
Senator Rosen will yield. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Rosen, this looks very similar to a bill that was presented on the floor here a few days ago, directing that all of these resources be put into a specific fund and only be appropriated by a specific act of the legislature, rather than following the LCC process that we've established, wherein expenditures above a certain amount can come to the LCC for, for approval during the interim. So Senator Rosen, how would you anticipate if everything does need to be specifically appropriated from this fund by the legislature, how state government services would be funded that would need to be done so on a timely basis, contact tracing, testing, et cetera, if the legislature was not in session?
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Dibble. This really doesn't have anything to do with contract tracing or anything above and beyond, just getting the money out to the local government for their ability to prepare for any future outbreaks or any outbreaks that they've had. So it's just an appropriation fairly across the board, base funding to prepare them and to be accountable for their funds. So we don't really need to be in the once this gets signed, the money goes out by the commissioner and our job is done for the local government.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Rosen, it doesn't read that way, unfortunately. It says all money received by the state under the CARES Act must be credited to the Coronavirus Relief Federal Fund, and nothing in the fund cannot be spent except pursuant to a direct appropriation by law. And so the question still begs, what would happen in June, July, August when we're not here and there's a surge in cases and funds that are in this particular fund would need to be expended on an expedited basis to deal with hospital surge capacity or testing needs or homeless needs or food insecurity or issues like that. If these funds have to be spent pursuant to a direct appropriation by law, and we haven't necessarily anticipated those appropriations that are necessary at this point in time, and we're not in session and we can't do that direct appropriation at that time.
Yeah.
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Dibble. And that's a very good question. This is a tremendous amount of money that is going out. I still believe that the legislature rightfully has the duty to make sure that these funds are appropriated correctly by the Treasury guidelines that are given. So within what we have been given, the 2.186 minus the $317 million to Hennepin and Ramsey counties, we have 1.869 available. We have a list of things that have already been designated for this fund, and if you take out the 667 that we are going to be appropriating, some money for small business grants, some money for broadband, some money for housing. There is the thought of giving a large portion of this money to the governor for his ability to be nimble, like he has with the Minnesota Fund, that still has a process of review that we feel has been working very well. And he's been able to appropriate money out with that 24-hour review from both the House and the Senate leaders. And then that leaves some money on the bottom line that perhaps it needs to be spent. The governor would call us in. But that is how we perceive the spending of this money, and I think it's a fair, equitable way of doing it.
Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Dibble.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Members, I would encourage a no vote. We've already had a very thorough discussion of this effort on the part of Senator Rosen to take all the money that comes to the state and put it in this fund and subject it to direct appropriations, every penny of it, by the legislature, instead of going through the process that we have already established that works very well and is especially important in this moment of crisis when we're not in session and we can't appropriate those dollars and we're responding to an emergency and the executive branch needs to move quickly and swiftly to respond to the crisis and the health and the safety and the very lives of Minnesotans. We are simply not going to be in session in July, August, September, when we very much could have a second wave and a surge, and the governor absolutely needs to be able to respond quickly with swabs, with testing kits, with ramping up hospital capacity and the like. We have a mechanism. They can come to the LCC. Every dollar is accounted for. Or the LAC, not the LCC, and it works quite well. So I don't know why we would hamper and hamstring the state's ability to respond to a state in crisis. We have a mechanism to account for those dollars, a mechanism to get those dollars out the door if necessary. This is simply hamstringing our ability to respond in an efficient basis. Please, we've already had this debate. We've established this is not acceptable a way to proceed. The governor certainly won't support it. I encourage a no vote.
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Dibble, I beg to differ. I beg to differ on that analysis. I don't think it is fair for the governor to have to handle all of that money going out. And by the way, we have $1 billion that we are sending out immediately, that we want to send out immediately to local governments to handle this issue. And I think we've been very quick with our response on that. And the ability to give the governor more money in his Minnesota fund for him to be able to maneuver through quickly through this, as he has been doing, and we have responded very well. I think there has been one disagreement on how money was spent to respond to this. Is pretty good. I think that works very well. So it really comes down to whether you believe the legislature has the right to appropriate money coming from the federal government, and that, or should it be the governor? And that is where the vote really stands. And I think with this amendment attached on to the local funding for our government sources, we've got a very good plan going forward.
Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Rosen yield for a question?
Senator Rosen will yield. Senator Bingham.
I am hoping you can refresh my recollection here. We had a previous bill that was brought up related to COVID funding, where my good friend and yours, Senator Champion, offered an amendment that exempted the appropriation to a fund that you had that is similarly described as this amendment from any federally appropriated monies to counties, directly to counties. And you accepted that amendment. And then I came out after and said, Senator Rosen, I hope with future appropriations that would come from the federal government, maybe to other direct counties, that they would get the same respect that Hennepin and Ramsey had. So I'm hoping that you would withdraw this amendment, and maybe we can look at that language and revisit this, because unless I'm wrong, and I'm asking you to refresh my memory, I believe Senator Champion offered an amendment and you accepted to protect the federally appropriated money to Hennepin and Ramsey County in a similar amendment on an earlier bill.
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Bingham, I'm sorry, I have really no idea what this is referring to. All I know is the A50 amendment is a bipartisan amendment, and it really does come down to who do you think is in charge of money that comes from the federal government? And if you want one person to be in charge of almost $2 billion, then vote no on this amendment. That's what it really comes down to. I feel the legislative body has the authority over this money because we represent the taxpayers, and we have constituents that we listen to, and we represent a wide variety from border to border, and that viewpoint of how those monies are going to be spent is coming to the Capitol. And I would love to have 201 legislators have their fingerprints on the funds that are coming from the feds and not just one person in one office.
Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. We don't interfere when the federal government does a direct appropriation to schools, counties, or cities. We do not interfere. I am almost certain that one of the very first bills, once we received Public Law 1116-136, the CARES Act, that Senator Champion came out and offered the oral amendment to protect Hennepin County and Ramsey County's money, that this should not be subject to the account you were creating, Chair Rosen. And you accepted it to protect it because it was a direct appropriation, and you agreed with him. So I'm asking that either we amend this now where we can put a comma after state and say unless federally appropriated directly to a local government under the public law, or I mean, I don't understand why in one bill it's okay to do, but in this bill it's not.
Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Herr.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Rosen, for working very hard on this amendment. I want to see if Senator Rosen will yield.
Senator Rosen will yield. Senator Herr.
Senator Rosen, I just want to know if this bill, the amendment you made to this bill, does it have a House companion?
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Herr, no, it does not.
Senator Herr.
Mr. President, and I want to see if Senator Rosen will yield.
Senator Rosen will continue to yield. Senator Herr.
Senator Rosen, are you aware Representative Marcotte's bill is in the House that has similar language?
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Herr, yes, I'm very familiar with that and have been working with Representative Marquardt.
Senator Herr.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. Thank you for sharing your thought about knowing that Representative Marquardt has a bill. And you did mention about giving the power to our legislature, 201 legislators. So I'd like to encourage you to maybe take a little bit more time and work with Representative Marquardt so that we can have a bill that consistent and pass this legislation. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Members, we're on the A50 amendment. Any further discussion? Senator Rosen?
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Herr, thank you for that. This bill, the original bill, Representative Garofalo has, and I can assure you that conversations have been going on for the last 3 days with Representative Marquardt.
All right, members, we're on the A50 amendment. A roll call has been requested. The roll call. Senator Cohn?
Mr. President, just a point of clarification. If I have followed this correctly, I think Senator Bingham was referring to the original COVID account that was established where the commission was set up with, I think, 5 of us from each body in terms of approval of the federal money. I think that's what Senator Bingham was referring to.
Okay, members, we're on the A50 amendment. A roll call has been requested. So we're on the A50 amendment. The secretary will take the roll.
No, I'm sorry. Not. I know.
Members in the retiring room. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in the president's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. I will now call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report no for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Champion.
Senator Champion votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Dietzick.
Senator Dietzick votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Franzen.
Senator Franzen votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Frentz.
Senator Frentz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes no. Senator Kent.
I report yes for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes yes. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes no. I'll now call on Senator Benson to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson B. votes yes.
Senator Anderson B. votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Anderson P. votes yes.
Senator Anderson P. votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Dames votes yes.
Senator Dames votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Hall votes yes.
Senator Hall votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Housley votes yes.
Senator Housley votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Ingebretson votes yes.
Senator Ingebretson votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Newman votes yes.
Senator Newman votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Osmic votes yes.
Senator Osmic votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Senjum votes yes.
Senator Senjum votes yes. Senator Benson.
And Senator Westrom votes yes.
Senator Westrom votes yes. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 41 ayes and 26 nays, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, we are back on Senate File 4564 as amended. Any further discussion? Senator Uckey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to offer the A51 amendment.
Senator Uckey offers the A51 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Utke moves to amend Senate File Number 4564 as follows. Page 3 after line 31, insert. This is the A51 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the A51 amendment addresses a reimbursement proposal for the COVID-19 related expenses incurred because of the presumptive eligibility classes added to the Workers' Compensation chapter of law when House File 4537 was passed and signed into law this past April 7th. 17 employment classes were covered by the presumptive language included in House File 4537. When the language for HF 4537 was being discussed and passed at the Work Comp Advisory Council, funding was discussed but was not ready at the time the bill passed. This bill now addresses the funding needed for the presumptive language in House File 4537. While this provides protection for our frontline workers during the COVID-19 epidemic, many of the entities that employ these workers are cash-strapped at the moment. For example, local governments employ firefighters, police officers, and often EMTs. Hospitals and long-term care facilities employ doctors and nurses. Neither of these employers are doing well at the moment. We're particularly concerned about local governments. They often don't have substantial reserves, and their only option for raising revenue is increasing property taxes or cutting services. The following is information from the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust. The League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust is a self-insurance pool providing workers' compensation coverage to almost all cities and standalone police and fire departments in Minnesota, except for the 9 large self-insured cities. The League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust is a public joint powers entity owned and managed by their member cities and is a sister entity to the League of Minnesota Cities, which provides research, training, and other services to our cities. They endorsed the initial presumption legislation to extend needed financial protection to the public safety and healthcare workers who are on the front lines in dealing with the pandemic. Their concerns about how to sustainably fund this promoted them to begin conversations with their colleagues at other local government pools and affected self-insured entities. That grew into a conversation with a wide range of stakeholders and ultimately led to the creation of this bill, and in this case, the amendment. That group of stakeholders includes the League of Minnesota Cities and the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust, Minnesota Association of Townships and Minnesota Association of Townships Insurance Trust, Association of Minnesota Counties and Minnesota Counties Insurance Trust, Minnesota Intercounty Association, Minnesota School Board Association, Self-Insured Cities and Counties, Insurance Federation of Minnesota, Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, Minnesota Hospital Association, the Minnesota Employers Workers' Compensation Alliance, the Minnesota Self-Insurance Group, the Minnesota Chiefs of Police Association, the Minnesota Fire Chiefs Association, and Public Safety Labor Unions. And I have information from the Minnesota Self-Insured Group Incorporated, an advocacy organization for group workers' compensation funds. The Minnesota Self-Insured Group represents over 1,000 Minnesota employers participating in self-funded group workers' compensation funds. While they agree with and fully support the presumptive legislation extending workers' compensation benefits to frontline healthcare workers, that legislation has created a financial threat to Minnesota self-funded workers' compensation groups specializing in healthcare. 3 self-funded groups: Greater Minnesota Self-Insured Workers Compensation Fund, consisting of hospitals in Cloquet, Aiken, and Malacca; Care Providers Self-Insurance Workers Compensation Fund, consisting of home care and facility-based health care of vulnerable populations; and Healthcare Select Self-Insured Workers' Compensation Fund consisting of nursing home operations throughout Minnesota, employ nearly 10,000 frontline healthcare employees and are already experiencing reported positive COVID-19 diagnoses on their staffs. The financial burden of the COVID-19 claims was unforeseen, unfunded, and unbudgeted. With the presumptive causation, the costs are now unavoidable. The three groups are of relatively modest size, with total annual premiums ranging from $900,000 to $2 million. Uncapped claim costs projected for COVID-19 claims would likely drive these self-funded groups, which have each been operating successfully since 2004, out of business. The frontline healthcare workers employed by these private employers were provided presumptive causation under the same terms as the public first responders and healthcare employees. The private self-funded healthcare groups should receive the same consideration for funding of the costs as the public entities. What type of costs are we talking about? The Department of Commerce and Labor, the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor and Industry coordinated on rough modeling of the cost to workers' compensation system for the presumptive class workers. The range was from $251 to $495 million for the year. How are reimbursements determined? Self-insured local government entity, local government self-insurance pool, or group self-insure with presumptive class workers and an annual premium less than $5 million would have an aggregate deductible of $100,000. That is, when one of these individual entities paid total COVID-related workers' compensation costs of $100,000 for claims arising from employees in one of the classes covered by the presumption, that entity would become eligible for reimbursement by the fund for any additional such costs. All other entities would have an aggregate deductible of $1 million. That is, when one of these individual entities paid total COVID-related workers' compensation costs of $1 million for claims arising from employees in one of the classes covered by the presumption, that entity would become eligible for reimbursement by the fund for any additional costs. The two-tiered deductible structure is designed to ensure that local governments and the smallest employers get more help, while the larger systems are still supported at a somewhat lower level. The fund's obligation to pay would be reduced by the amount of any work comp reinsurance or other third-party sources of payment paid to the workers' compensation provider. Any claimant within a presumptive job class counts toward the deductible and is eligible for reimbursement. This bill provides $375 million from the federal funds we've received to cover these costs for the affected employers. Additionally, we're requiring reporting to the legislature on August 1st and November 1st, so if claims experience is lower than expected, we can recapture some of the funding for other purposes. Since the federal funds are only available until December 30th, the estimated costs are reduced to the $375 million in the bill to correspond with the December 30th date. We believe the $375 million will be sufficient, but there is still substantial uncertainty in the modeling we've received. A couple of additional items. Some have questioned who are eligible for the reimbursement for the costs related to COVID-19 because we are using federal funds. From everything we have heard concerning temporary charges related to COVID-19, this plan would be eligible. This bill language is consistent with other COVID-19 bills that have come before us this year. This bill is about reimbursing the costs incurred from our frontline workers due to the COVID-19 crisis. Members, just to give you a quick little update, this is on the Department of Labor and Industry website. Injuries or COVID-related 19 claims March 4 through April 25 which were reported on May 4th and dated May 5th or May 8th on the website, there were a total of 389 claims at that point already, 116 from hospitals, 124 from long-term care, and the rest spread over other services. So it started, we just don't have a lot of history to run with yet. Members, we are committed to helping our frontline workers with House File 4537, which again has been passed into law. But we did not have a funding source at that time to pay the obligations. This amendment before us today completes that commitment to provide the health care needed by the employees and to pay the additional costs incurred from the COVID-19 virus. Members, that is the A51 amendment.
Discussion on the amendment. Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Utke yield for a question?
Senator Utke will yield. Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Utke, this very, very important issue for related to COVID, related to workers. My question is, just to confirm, the $375 million comes from a completely separate pot of money that was sent down from the federal government for COVID-related purposes and not out of the $667 million appropriated for state and local governments.
Senator Utke.
Right. This is money that we're going for basically the big pot, the $2 billion that's been worked on from the federal government. So it's not taking away anything that's been appropriated. It's appropriating money and holding it so that we hold this system.
Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Utke continue to yield for a question?
Senator Utke will yield. Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Utke, then my question would be, of the $667 million that at some point will be appropriated, cities and counties and townships could use that money for worker compensation claims too, I guess is my first question, and then I would have a follow-up.
Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Bingham, that is true. They could.
Senator Bingham.
Mr. President, would Senator Utke yield for one more question?
Senator Utke will yield. Senator Bingham.
Then is it, I guess, your preference that they use this pot of money or the pot of money from that they'll be receiving out of the remainder part of this Senate file we are debating right now, Senate File 4564?
Senator Utke.
Mr. President, Senator, I didn't get the clarity. Are you saying, is there a preference for which pool of money? You know, I guess I'm going to defer to our finance chair because I'm concerned that we just get this covered. We'll let Senator Rosen tell us which pool of money would be appropriate.
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Senator Utke and Senator Bingham for that question. I believe that the $375 million that's being appropriated, it can also be used for other first responders, such as nursing homes, our hospitals. The list can continue on outside of just a public employee. So it's very important to make sure that we cover this unfunded mandate that we've created and that we protect our healthcare workers and our public employees.
Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I totally agree that that was a very big concern of mine. And in fact, as soon as I put out on social media that I supported the creation of that workers' comp commission, I had provision earlier this session, I had two mayors immediately calling me saying, hey, that's fantastic, where's the money? So I guess I'm going to want to give clarity to those mayors and city folk and county folk and township folk if they should hold their appropriation and use this money first or use their appropriation. But I guess I'll let that get sorted out. And then I did actually have one more question for Senator Utke, if he would yield.
Senator Utke will yield. Senator Bingham.
Senator Uckey, can the COVID federal money even go for like a private insurer if it was a private, I don't know, hospital or long-term care facility if they were private?
Senator Uckey.
Mr. President and Senator, we have had conversations along those lines because that question has come up a number of times, and our response has been that from the U.S. Treasury that anything that can be tied to COVID should and could be a covered cost. And because we do have those private nursing homes and hospitals, but yet we have their frontline workers that we are covering with this workers' compensation presumption. And at this point, we're being told we're doing the right thing.
All right, members, we're on the A51 amendment. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. If Senator Utkey would yield.
Senator Uckey will yield. Senator Dibble.
Senator Utkey, to that point you just made, did you consult with MMB, Minnesota Management and Budget, on the eligible uses for these dollars? Is this, if these dollars flow to private entities, is this in fact an eligible use for these dollars?
Senator Utkey.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Dibble. There has been conversations with them. We are also, the language is worded the way it is because if there was a concern that they would have a different opinion, we want to make sure we have coverage. So this bill, in this case it's the amendment, is all worded so that we have a path forward to be able to gather those funds and help pay those excessive claims above the deductibles to keep our payers whole and keep them in business.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Utkey would yield for another question.
Senator Uckey will yield. Senator Dibble.
So thank you, Senator Utkey. If you could explain that a little bit more, because my question is, what would happen if, in fact, we did pay these dollars out for private employers' expenses? We see, of course, the letter from the Chamber of Commerce wanting to put their hand in this pot of money, and it wasn't eligible. Would it create a liability and an obligation on the part of the state to pay those dollars back to the federal government?
Senator Utkey.
And I missed a little bit of that. You were wondering what would happen if they didn't qualify. Would the money go back to the federal government?
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. To be clear, I assume the dollars will have already been expended and given to individuals and they've spent it, and so clawing it back wouldn't be an obligation, yet there would be a liability on the part of the state if we have inappropriately, illegally spent those federal dollars. Do we know if the state then would have an obligation to pay those dollars back to the federal government if they'd been used inappropriately outside of the bounds of the provisions of the federal law?
Senator Utkey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Dibble, I wouldn't envision making payments until we were sure that they were all correct, so that we are not making a payment that we're going to have to go back and try to recoup or make up through other sources. That by the time we would start making payments, we will have assurances that everything is 100% in line as we're being told it is currently.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'm reading a document from Minnesota Management and Budget that says this is not at all clear, and this is a huge risk that we run if we pass this language. Finally, one last question, Mr. President, if Senator Utkey would yield.
Senator Utkey will yield. Senator Dibble.
Senator Utkey, in your presentation, you said that you have no idea, or you're not sure, or it's not clear, your methodology isn't precise about the amount. How did you arrive at the amount of $375 million? And can we afford that amount given all of the other pressures we have in responding to the emergency that's in front of us?
Senator Utkey.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Dibble. Yes, in the presentation and the information I received, is that the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor and Industry did what was called the rough modeling, but anyhow, they did the modeling that came up with the numbers and the low end of the high end of what this presumptive language could end up costing. And so we're using their data and then shortened it because this money has to be spent by December 30th, and the claims have to be in by then. So we brought it back into this current term. That's the numbers we're using. It's the best work and the best estimate of our departments.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you. Mr. President, if Senator Rosen would yield.
Senator Rosen will yield. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Rosen, given what we know, this is an extraordinary amount of money, $375 million. We know that dollars are flowing to, and rightly so, appropriately so, flowing to state and locals for expenses like this. And we know that it's very, very dubious whether or not these dollars can flow to private entities. Are you supportive? And we know that the governor is opposed to this language, and this would cause a problem for your underlying bill. Are you supportive of bringing the Utke amendment into your bill?
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Dibble, for that question. Yes, I am supportive of this amendment that Senator Utke has presented, because I think it's important to make sure we have put the money behind a mandate that we've put to our first responders to and make sure that they're covered through this workers' comp. Is there going to be the ability to have perhaps, shall I say, as you said, Senator Dibble, these are extraordinary numbers, extraordinary times. It's really hard to figure out how many cases are going to be coming in that need to be covered. So we felt that the average of what was being proposed would be appropriate. I believe that we're covering our bases. It still allows money, and the bottom line, almost $200 million. And that's after we've given the governor some abilities of $200 million to maneuver. And I think that this is make sure that we are covering our healthcare workers, our first responders, and we have protected those who are protecting us.
Further discussion on the A51 amendment. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Utke yield, please?
Senator Utke will yield. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Utke, I know you had a bill that was similar in the State Government Committee in recent days. Is this the same language that was in that bill?
Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Kent, yes. From state government, we went to the Finance Committee, and we made a slight change to the language in the last paragraph of what was the bill at that time. But the heart of everything we went over in state gov is exactly what we're looking at here in this amendment, related to the funding part of the bill.
Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will Senator Utke continue to yield, please?
Senator Utke will yield. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we know there was a lot of work that went into the original workers' compensation bill surrounding COVID-19 and how important it was to protect our first responders and healthcare workers and make sure that they're taken care of. I know specifically that President Miller was very involved in those negotiations, as well as Senator Simonson. And I know a big part of the discussion was that we had to work on it until the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council was in agreement and supportive of the solution that we reached. Is the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council supportive of your language?
Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Kent, and I missed the tail end, but I think I know what you said was the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council did they weigh in on this? Specifically at the end, no. When we were putting the bill together, which we reference House File 4537 that Senator Miller and others worked on, that was the policy side of that bill. Top conversations around the funding were being had already at that and even before, and now the funding has come together. But in reference to the Work Comp Advisory Council, that council works on the policy issues and everything affecting the policy and the statutes related to the workers and the industry side and everything. In a long history behind us, they have never weighed in on the funding side, and this is the funding part of it. So tradition that goes back quite a while, there was no reference to that council having to meet and weigh in on funding. So we're here today, and we should be, I mean, we're 100% good with the council because they worked on the policy, we're taking care of the funding.
Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I am not reassured by that. It is my understanding that this is something that we need to make sure that all the players, all the stakeholders in that council are in agreement with, because there are a number of aspects here that pose a lot of risks. I know there's a lot of interest to make sure that we do provide financial support, particularly for our local governments who are concerned about the burden that this will place on their financial shoulders. But I'm really concerned about where this one stands and the fact that the WCAC has not been involved. Thank you.
Seeing no, Senator Utke.
I will just follow up on that just briefly after visiting here with Senator Pratt. And I kind of gave you the high level part of it, but actually the council was more like, we've approved the policy, you guys go take care of the funding. And that's where we're at today. We have found a source for the funding, and you know, it wasn't something that they needed to weigh in at all. But they actually, at that time, were giving direction. So we're completing that mission.
Senator Cohen.
Mr. President and members, as I've listened to the discussion, I have some significant concerns about Senator Utke's amendment. And it's my understanding, well, not my understanding, as somebody who serves on the Finance Committee, Senator Rosen has worked very hard, and although I have some concerns about the actual language in front of us from Senator Rosen's original bill, she's worked very hard to try to determine an apportionment of the federal monies coming for local shares. And that part of it is quite understandable, whether we agree or disagree with what Senator Rosen has promulgated in terms of counting in local shares. My concern, however, with this particular amendment is when we start dealing with some of the ambiguities that I've heard discussed on the Senate floor. We're not quite sure whether or not the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council is going to weigh in or not weigh in. We're not quite sure as to the exact amount. We've heard talk about somebody from the U.S. Treasury, I believe, some ambiguities relative to MMB. The concern I have is that when we look at the money that's been sent to Minnesota by the federal government, we have no guarantee that there's more money coming. There's discussion apparently in Washington as to whether or not there should be a second stimulus package given to governments. We don't know that that's going to happen. There's no guarantee of that. And what are the needs that we're going to have that arguably might be on a higher level than what Senator Utke has proposed? I've heard some discussion, not on the floor of the Senate, but I've heard some discussion that with the hospital share, that there are some hospitals that have significant needs relative to the COVID crisis that feel that they have not gotten their fair share of monies available. I don't know if that's the case or not. I've heard discussion of other kinds of needs in terms of some of the particular issues that have come in front of the state relative to COVID. We don't know if those are going to be at a higher priority than what's presented in this amendment with a cost of $375 million. Obviously, as a state, we don't have any more money to deal with this. because of the deficit. It's quite possible that between now and the end of the year, all we're going to have is what's in front of us right now relative to that non-local federal share. And I think absent significant input, not simply from MMB or Dolly in terms of what kind of dollar amount may or may not be appropriate, what about the Department of Health? What about local departments of health? What about the hospitals? What else is going to be needed for a determination of what the highest priorities are? And to start earmarking a bill like this, separate from what the federal government has directed in terms of the local shares, before we start earmarking this bill, we should be very, very careful about what the higher priorities are going to be, because I've not heard the discussion on the Senate floor as to what that might be. This is a segment, maybe a very important segment, but in the context of everything else, I fail to see that we've taken into consideration what we might actually have to do between now and December 31st.
Any further discussion on the A51 amendment? Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support Senator Uckey's A51 amendment. Senator Uckey listed a number of stakeholders that have all worked on this and agreed that this is the way we need to fund it. And I think to Senator Cohn's comments just a second ago about what the higher priority is. A month ago, we came into this body after the good work, Mr. President, that you did to help bring us to this presumption. And we said it is extremely important. It is a high priority for us to make sure that our frontline workers dealing in the COVID crisis, our police officers, our EMTs, our nurses, our nursing home folks are protected, and that if they contract COVID-19 in the course of their job, they should have a presumption going forward that that illness was contracted on the job and be covered through workers' comp. We said that was a priority here, and when we passed that bill, we said we would try to find a way to fund it. And I appreciate the work that Senator Dames has done, along with Senator Uckey, because this truly is a stakeholder solution. This is one that says that now that we put that presumption, now that we put that mandate on these organizations, we as the state will come through and fund it. And thank goodness we have the funding from the federal government. We've been able to confirm that this is an appropriate use of those funds, and we should set those aside. And I believe Senator Uckey's bill also gives us a point in time to look and understand if the cases that have arisen meet the need or not. If we are needing additional money, we'll have to try to find that. But if we haven't spent as much on this presumption, we can redirect those funds to other purposes. So, Mr. President, I rise to support the A51 amendment. I rise to support the work of the League of Minnesota Cities, the League of Minnesota Townships, the Insurance Federation, Chambers of Commerce, and everyone else that was a part of this solution. Because this was a very, very difficult solution that Senator Dames and Senator Uckey worked on. And it's a very elegant solution, and it meets the need of the mandate that we put on all those self-insurers a month ago when we passed presumption. We did the right thing for our frontline workers.
Further discussion on the amendment, Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I do want to point out again, Senator Uckey said this, but there is a report back to their legislature, August 1st of 2020, November 1st, and then January 15th of 2021. There are checkpoints here that if these funds are not being used, and it comes back to the legislature as far as how much reimbursements are paid to the workers' compensation providers. I think that's a very good stopgap and ability to adjust whether all these funds are needed or if we need to put more money into this. As far as Senator Cohen's comments, thank you, Senator Cohen, for that. You're right. There are pressures that are on our healthcare workers, our industry, the hospitals, there is tremendous amount of money that's coming from the feds outside of what we have in front of us today. For example, HCMC is receiving $19 million from the Public Health and Social Services Emergency Fund. There's another $49.5 for the COVID high impact to some hospitals in the Twin Cities. There is lost it. There is money that was just appropriated this afternoon from the $150 million that we gave to hospitals of $70 million that went out. And then, of course, that's round one. There's going to be another round of money going out, but our major hospitals received 9.5 to Allina, CentraCare 9.5, HCMC 9.5, University of Minnesota Physicians, $8 million. So there is money that is going out, and we have, again, as I want to say, on the spreadsheet, we have money to be able to adjust to expenses that arise quickly for the governor. We have money left on the bottom line, almost $200 million, and we've taken care of issues that are COVID related. I want to actually go back to that and stress how important that we have to keep in mind these are COVID-19 related expenses. We can't solve all the issues, but we can solve COVID-19 expenses. So with that, members, I think this is a very reasonable amendment, and thank you to all who have worked on this.
Okay, members, we're on the A51 amendment. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of votes, the motion prevails. All right, members, and the amendment is adopted. Members, we're back on Senate File 4564 as amended. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, if Senator Rosen would yield.
Senator Rosen will yield. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Rosen, I think you might be familiar with some of the concerns about this particular approach. It seeks to sweep all the dollars that come to the state of Minnesota into the fund that you've set up. And in some instances, some of those funds have come directly to particular local units of government, and you have in your bill special provision for Hennepin and Ramsey counties and their distribution to cities and towns, and setting forth how that occurs. So my question, Mr. President, to Senator Rosen is, did I ask if Senator Rosen would yield?
Senator Rosen will yield. Senator Dibble.
Thank you. The question is, what happens if, similar to the question I had for Senator Utke on the workers' comp expenditure, but coming down now to the level of Hennepin and Ramsey County, and they're required to disperse these dollars to municipalities who then may not in turn spend those dollars according to the dictates of the Federal CARES Act. Does that then trigger a liability on the part of Hennepin and Ramsey County? Are they liable for those misspent funds, because those funds have originally been, which, by the way, much of which have been already either obligated or spent by Hennepin County? That's another conversation. Is there a risk to Hennepin County if the cities of Hennepin County don't spend those dollars in the appropriate way?
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Dibble, I did not hear, is there something, and then I lost that word.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you. Yes. So if Hennepin County, for example, passes dollars on to a city within its boundaries, and that city takes those dollars, and it's determined later from an audit by the federal government that those dollars were not spent appropriately, does Hennepin County then incur that risk? And I'll just add parenthetically, Hennepin County is very concerned about that, because the timing in which these requirements for them to disperse these dollars are so quick that some contracts maybe can't be put in place. So would Hennepin County be on the hook for those dollars that are misspent by the city of Minneapolis, for example?
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Dibble. Yes, they are at risk, and they need to certify their expenses. The cities do. I also, though, want to clarify that actually Hennepin and Ramsey money is would be pulled into the account. You're saying, let's see, let me think. You're worried that Hennepin and Ramsey would be pulled into the A50 account that we've been discussing on as far as who's in control of the CRF. That's not the case. They are separate. It's just the extra money. So they are in a separate account, and you're assuming that they've been pulled into it, and it's not that case.
Senator Dibble.
So to be clear, the dollars that are coming directly from the federal government to Hennepin and Ramsey County will still come directly to Hennepin and Ramsey County, or are they going to have to be passed through the hands of the state to Hennepin and Ramsey County, who are then obliged to then pass those dollars on to the municipalities within Hennepin and Ramsey County? Is the state still, through your bill, now going to be first receiving those dollars and then passing them on to Hennepin Ramsey County, or Hennepin Ramsey County able to receive those dollars that have been allocated to them through the federal bill and do with them as they see fit?
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Dibble. I assume that's a question. And actually, Hennepin and Ramsey County have already received their money. And so it is in their hands, and they've had this for a while. The federal government was very quick to get that money out to them, was very quick to get the money out to the state, and their intention is to get it out to the local governments very quickly. So my bill that is before you, 4564, just says that Hennepin and Ramsey need to share that money with their cities and one township.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you. That helps, Senator Rosen. I will also say, though, that the formula, as you set forth, these dollars that are flowing from the state to the counties and then subsequently to the cities in those counties, seems to have a very little relationship to where the actual needs are occurring through the formula that's been set up. And, you know, we see, for example, you know, we know, for example, Hennepin County, I'll just talk about my county, where we have, you know, 20% of the patients that come in for tests at our level 1 trauma care critical access hospital are not from Hennepin County. You know, 30% of all the positive cases are there. 40% of all hospitalized patients are in Hennepin County. But even outside, you know, a city and a town that are of the same size get treated differently. Cities, you know, I see here that cities with 47 residents can possibly receive 5,000, a town with 99 receiving only 2,500. We know, for example, Nobles County has a tremendous impact, and it's hard to see how the formula relates to the differing needs around the state, according to not just population, but by some of the actual demonstrated need. Mr. President, I would like to offer the A52 amendment.
Senator Dibble offers the A52 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Dibble moves to amend Senate File 4564 as follows. Page 1, delete subdivisions 1 and 2 and insert. This is the A52 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Dibble.
So thank you, Mr. President. So I think the A52 would more precisely get those dollars to those places where the need is demonstrated and doesn't have what ultimately ends up being a somewhat arbitrary formula. So it's simply a mechanism that would treat these dollars similar to how FEMA, for example, comes in and reimburses local units of government based on the actual experience. They document the eligible expenses and then submit for reimbursement. Oh, Mr. President, if I may offer an oral amendment to the amendment.
Senator Dibble, please state your oral amendment.
Mr. President, I would just like to strike the sentence that begins on line 10, starting with the commissioner. So delete everything to the end of that line, and then delete the remainder of the sentence on line 11, the word basis and the period. So just getting rid of the first come, first served basis qualification.
The Secretary will report the oral amendment to the amendment.
Senator Dibble moves to amend the Dibble amendment to Senate File 4564 as follows. Page 1.10, after the number 20, period, delete. The Commissioner must award reimbursement grants on a first come, comma, first served basis, period.
So members were first voting on the oral amendment to the amendment. Discussion on that. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations.
Three, four, yeah. Was that Melissa? That was Sam. It's going to be close.
Members in the chamber, if you are a yes on the amendment to the amendment, please stand at your desk. You may be seated. Members, if you are a no on the amendment to the amendment, please stand at your desk. Please keep standing. No, I'm just kidding. You may be seated. The amendment does not receive a sufficient number of votes. The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. So members, Senator Dibble, we're back on your original A52 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, that's fine. I mean, I wasn't wedded to, I was just trying to make the amendment a little better, a little more palatable, but that's fine. That's not a damaging failure to get those words out. I would like to request a roll call on the A52.
Roll call has been requested. Roll call will be granted.
And Mr. President, I think this is an elegant solution. It solves a lot of the problems that have been articulated. This issue of counties being liable for the incorrect expenditure of funds by cities to whom they've passed those funds to, and really focuses and targets the dollars where the need is greatest, because what happens is local governments simply demonstrate the expenses that they've incurred in responding to the crisis and to the issues that are being raised by members of my own caucus. If a county or a city doesn't want to submit for reimbursement of those funds, they don't have to. If they feel like they've already received the funds they need, or they're in good stead, they're fine. They don't have to submit for reimbursement for those funds. Thank you, Mr. President.
Discussion on the amendment. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Dibble, for the amendment. I will acknowledge trying to get the correct formula out for the entire state has been a challenge. I think the House is going through the same thing. How do you keep this fair? What we did was, because of the allocation to Hennepin and Ramsey, it came out to $174.50 per head, per capita. So we took that formula and spread it throughout the state, and that's how we got to our formula, and then divided what we thought would be fair for the towns and cities. The main thing is that we get this money out quickly, in a fair way, and I think that this amendment actually makes it an administrative burden for these cities and counties, because they are going to have to find the money to pay their expenses and then submit their receipts. And then it wouldn't be till December 1st before that money would be coming back to them. So they don't have this money, especially if they've had some kind of outbreak. And the point of my bill is to make sure that every county, every city, every township has the ability to be prepared for COVID-19. And if they don't use the money, it goes back into a fund that other counties, cities, and townships are eligible for. So again, it's very heavy administrative. And Mr. President, will Senator Dibble yield, please?
Senator Dibble will yield. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Dibble, did you ask for a fiscal note on this amendment?
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have not. It just materialized into existence out of thin air moments ago, so I haven't had that opportunity. But thank you for the question.
Mr. President.
Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Dibble. I appreciate that. And I know I've talked to Senator Bingham about the formula, working with the House. I'm not saying this is a perfect formula, but it does treat everybody fairly, and that was our main object, is to get everybody prepared on a base level funding.
Discussion on the A52 amendment. Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Dibble yield for a question?
Senator Dibble will yield, I believe. Senator Dibble.
So, Mr. President,
Senator Dibble, will you yield? Okay. Senator Bingham.
Mr. President, Senator Dibble, I get this process. I have a township that, according to this Senate file, will receive $45,000. And when I spoke to the township chair, has realized zero expenses for COVID. And that's because most counties, their public safety, public health is covered by services are covered by the county. The township's public safety, public health services are covered by the county. So my question about, so your intent, I get it, I don't disagree with that. My question to you, Senator Dibble, is if Ramsey and Hennepin have already received their money in the bank, would they be eligible to apply under this new reimbursement formula or reimbursement process?
Senator Dibble.
Mr. President, no, they wouldn't, Senator Bingham. They would have to apply for those expenses for which they need reimbursement. It's very similar in concept to how FEMA distributes its dollars. A city or county or whatever local unit of government has to apply for those expenses for which they certify they require reimbursement. They can't double dip. And so, and I think the argument has been made that, some places don't want these dollars because they received some funds already. And of course, they wouldn't be applying for those dollars in the first place.
Senator Bingham.
Would Senator Dibble continue to yield?
Senator Dibble will yield. Senator Bingham.
So the definition of the county has been deleted out of this amendment. So I actually believe that Hennepin and Ramsey counties would be able to apply under this new process. In my conversations with Hennepin and Ramsey County, which have been fabulous, they don't want any more of the $667 million. I mean, they never had it. They don't want any additional money from the $667 million, but their cities and township would, should be covered out of that $667 million. So I think the amendment could be more tightly written to make sure that it reflects the county's desire, and I think that I agree with the FEMA type approach. I think that that's something that might not be a bad idea, should be discussed, and I appreciate you bringing forward. I would just have reservation that the counties that have already received their federal amount of money, which I believe should not be touched because it came directly from the federal government, unlike the other 85 counties, which we could take that up with the federal government at a different time. I think that this should be reserved for the 85 counties to be relieved from their COVID-related expenses.
Members, any further discussion on the A52 amendment? A roll call has been requested. Seeing no further discussion, the secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in the president's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in 206, room 206, please come to the chamber to vote.
Well, this is a good test to see how many people you can muster. Right, I suppose. There's more to come. I feel pretty confident. Want to double down? Want to double down? John, should I take you off the list? Should I take you off the list? You don't need to speak. For what? Quickly. Yeah, we want more talk. Well, I do. He wants to go to sleep. Everybody's here. Everybody's here. Abler, we don't want here. Yeah, but he was he's still there. I know. That is about it. If anybody's Benson.
I will now call on Senator Benson to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Benson.
Mr. President, I report that Anderson B. votes no.
Senator Anderson B. votes no. Senator Benson.
Anderson P. votes no.
Senator Anderson P. votes no. Senator Benson.
Senator Dames votes no.
Senator Dames votes no. Senator Benson.
Senator Hall votes no.
Senator Hall votes no. Senator Benson.
Senator Newman votes no.
Senator Newman votes no. Senator Benson.
Senator Senjum votes no.
Senator Senjum votes no. Senator Benson.
Senator Housley votes no.
Senator Housley votes no. Senator Benson.
Senator Ingebretson votes no.
Senator Ingebretson votes no. Senator Benson.
Senator Westrom votes no.
Senator Westrom votes no.
Senator Rude votes no.
Senator Rude votes no. I will now call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Dietzick.
Senator Dietzick votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Franzen.
Senator Franzen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Frentz.
Senator Frentz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes no. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes no. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes aye. I will now call on Senator Benson to report the votes, to report more votes. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. My apologies. Senator Jensen votes no.
Senator Jensen votes no.
Senator Osmic votes no.
Senator Osmic votes no. Senator Kent, do you have any other votes to report? Perhaps one for Senator Pappas?
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 23 ayes and 43 nays, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Members, we are back on Senate File 4564. Any further discussion before we go to third reading? The Secretary will give Senate File 4564 its third reading.
Senate File Number 4564, a bill for an act relating to local government aid.
Third reading. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate File 4564 be laid on the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of votes, the motion prevails. Senator Curran.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, Senator Curran, I, Senator Curran, move that the vote whereby House File 2796 was passed by the Senate on May 16th, 2020, be now reconsidered.
Discussion on that motion, Senator Curran.
Mr. President, this motion is, and this action is to correct a drafting error, to correct the bill and put it back in its original, with its original intent.
Discussion on that motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Members, we have House File 2796 in front of us. Senator Curran.
Mr. President, I'd like to move the A52 amendment.
Senator Curran offers the A52 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Curran moves to amend the second Curran amendment to House File number 2796, adopted by the Senate May 16, 2020, as follows, page 2, line 13. After administrators insert, this is the A52 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Curran.
Thank you, Mr. President. What the amendment does is to fixes a drafting error. The original bill that we passed removed the cost of living increase for both contract years. What this amendment does is corrects it so it's only removed from the second contract year.
Further discussion on the A52 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. The Secretary will give House File 2796 its third reading.
House File number 2796, a bill for an act relating to law enforcement.
Third reading. Members, any final discussion on the bill? Seeing none, we're on final passage of House File 2796 as amended. The Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in 237, room 237, and members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. I will call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report no for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Champion.
Senator Champion votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Dietzick.
Senator Dietzick votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Franzen.
Senator Franzen votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Frentz.
Senator Frentz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes no. Senator Pappas or Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes no. I'll now call on Senator Benson to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson B. votes yes.
Senator Anderson B. votes yes. Senator
Senator
Benson.
Anderson P. votes yes.
Senator Anderson P. votes yes. Senator Benson.
Mr. President, I vote yes.
Senator Benson votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Dames votes yes.
Senator Dames votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Hall votes yes.
Senator Hall votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Housley votes yes.
Senator Housley votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes yes.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Jensen votes yes.
Senator Jensen votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Newman votes yes.
Senator Newman votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Osmic votes yes.
Senator Osmic votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Rude votes yes.
Senator Rude votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Senjum votes yes.
Senator Senjum votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Westrom votes yes.
Senator Westrom votes yes. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 34 ayes and 33 nays, the bill is passed in its title agreed to. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate File 4564 be taken off the table.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. All right, members, we have Senate File 4564 in front of us. The good news is we've already gone to third reading. However, I do have a list of speakers. The first member who is on the list is Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in favor of Senate File 4564. I was offered to see the list or the local distributions, and I just want to comment quickly. So Rice County, 6.9 million. Steele County, 3.6 million. Waseca County, 1.98 million. Dodge County, 2.8 million. The counties in my district that will get money through this plan, which is very good. My cities, Faribault, 2.07 million. Otana, 2.26 million. The city of Waseca, 785,000. Again, this local distribution will be beneficial to our cities, and this is just my cities in my district. I know the rest of you have those as well. These cities had to prepare, they've had to do safety measures, they've had to plan, they've had to do all kinds of things to deal with the COVID-19 issue. So these dollar amounts will be very beneficial that are distributed through all our cities and counties through the state as well as our townships. So I want to thank Senator Rosen for the file, Senate File 4564, and encourage a green vote.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Limmer, you were on my list. Pass. Senator Cohen.
Mr. President, I find it difficult to comment on this and in suggesting that I find myself needing to vote against the bill. And I say that because I know how hard Senator Rosen has worked along with fiscal staff to try to come up with some kind of plan to deal with this, to deal with this emergency. And so I wish I could support the bill, but I have several concerns I just want to relate to members. First is a legal concern. And I'm not sure, and we haven't heard it on the floor tonight, we did not hear it in the Finance Committee, when concerns were raised as to whether or not with a federal appropriation directly to Hennepin and Ramsey counties where they've received the money, as Senator Rosen has pointed out, whether or not there's the ability by a state legislature or a state government to direct and mandate some other distribution of the funds. There's been no resolution of that from any legal source that has suggested that can be done. Additionally, is a concern raised by other members tonight, and that's the question of what the needs are. And let me direct it away from my county, from Ramsey County. Let me just mention one very significant concern I have relative to Hennepin County, and that is that Hennepin has the responsibility for the funding of the Hennepin County Medical Center. We've had some discussion about HCMC tonight. If there's any place, any medical center, any healthcare entity that is probably at the center of this crisis in the state of Minnesota, it'd be HCMC. As the public hospital within the largest county, and certainly the county that has had by far the largest number of cases, the largest number of deaths, if there's any place that's the center, it's HCMC. So to take money away from Hennepin County and potentially not fully fund the needs of HCMC is something that is of detriment, not just simply to residents of Hennepin County. As Senator Dibble pointed out, there's something like 20 to 25% of folks serviced by HCMC that are not Hennepin County residents. It might be unfair of me to argue relative to other counties, but in terms of just the number of cases, there are actually two counties, at least presently, that are ahead of my county, Ramsey County. Nobles County, a smaller county, and Stearns County, a somewhat larger county. In the case of Nobles County, and I can't speak to the county budget or what is going on in the county. We all know what's happened with that county in the city of Worthington. And is this apportionment fair to a county like that probably has significantly greater needs than any number of other counties around the state? And I recognize, and I had a chance to talk to Senator Rosen about this briefly well before her bill was heard in the Finance Committee, as she was working on trying to promulgate what would seem to be fair and equitable, and asked directly whether or not this was going to be done on a per capita basis or on a needs basis. And I think Senator Rosen would be fair to state that, at least when you and I talked briefly about that, you weren't sure. And again, I recognize that you have worked extremely hard, as you do on any issue you've dealt with in this body. You've worked very hard to try to come up with something that would work. And I happen to know from some discussion with a staff person we have shared in common, and that would be Mr. Nauman, as to how hard the fiscal staff was working to try to come up with something that seemed to work. But it does concern me where I will suggest, because of not the ambiguity of this crisis, but because of our inability to make a determination of where the need is today, where the need might be tomorrow, where the need might be next month, that to come up with a system based upon a per capita percentage arguably doesn't leave us with the freedom then and the ability to deal with things on a crisis-by-crisis basis. And again, I'll make a reference to Nobles County. All of a sudden, we find ourselves in a situation where, at least maybe initially, at least to many of us who don't live in southern Minnesota, inexplicably found, for some reason, that there was the significant number of cases. And obviously, it became apparent that because of the processing plant, there were very large numbers of employees that had become infected. And that's a good example. What's the next county, whether small or large, that we might find ourselves in a situation where that county is unprepared, and we find ourselves then without the ability to provide the needed resources to that county? And that's why I would suggest, members, that at this hour, are we going to come up with a better bill between now and the end of the day tomorrow? Probably not. But I do think that there's the need to take a closer look. We've had some amendments that have been offered that have been voted down. I do think that the direction of this bill, I'm fearful, will result in our inability again to deal with situations that will come up in the future, inevitably, and we'll be unprepared for them.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise tonight in the dark of night. I've always wanted to say that, up here when we pass bills way past bedtime. As members are aware, I have a history in local government. Local governments are more than just our state partners. They act as the foundation in their communities upon which our businesses, residents, and families live. In my time as a Washington County Commissioner, I saw firsthand how critical these support services are for residents and how heavily they are relied upon during a time of emergency, such as the time we are in with COVID. This is a time of emergency, not only for our constituents, our residents, our businesses, but also our local government partners. We know that they are in need, and without providing them assistance, it will affect service delivery and impact property taxpayers. Counties and cities are realizing the costs of COVID, and those costs are increasing every day. PPE for our frontline responders, PTO for sick time, workers' compensation, housing assistance for homeless, food for families, those are just some of the increasing costs that are being realized. Cities and counties are also laying off workers to make their budget. Counties and cities are drawing down on their reserves to cover the costs related to COVID. Every week I'm on calls with Washington and Dakota counties, and they are very concerned about not receiving this very much needed money to cover the costs. Every single county has realized cost. They have had costs to prepare for COVID. They've had to prepare their jails, their social workers, public health nurses. They've had emergency preparedness for their communities. Counties, cities, and townships work together in times like these. For all the above reasons, we should be getting these CARES Act dollars out to our communities immediately. This bill is far from a finished product. It is my belief that we need to make changes to make this formula a bit cleaner, more transparent, and indicative of the true costs being borne by certain local governments, in particular, counties and cities. We shouldn't just send money out the door to townships, or any local government for that matter, that hasn't realized any costs. I have spoken to one of my townships, as I already said. They haven't realized any costs related to COVID, and in this bill gets $45,000. Why send them the money? We just don't appropriate money to local governments to have them send it back. It's wasteful, and it is not efficient. It is in all of our interests to get this bill right. And as the legislature and in the Senate, we have an important role to play in making sure we provide clear guidelines for use and to get these funds out to local governments based on merit and with the ideas of future needs. Based on my experience, I provided Chair Rosen with plenty of ideas. I know AMC and MICA and the city organizations all have too. I also believe that there is merit in holding some of this money back to address future needs and hotspots like those occurring in Nobles and Stearns County currently. This bill does not do that. This bill spends all of the money, reserves none to help local governments in the future if there's a flare-up of COVID later in the year. I look forward to continuing to work with Senator Rosen to accomplish these goals because I believe these are goals we both share, all of us, as we move forward. I do believe that this is one of the most important bills, Mr. President, that we have to get across the finish line this session because if we don't, these costs will hit local levies, which means property taxes. So I suggest that we work collaboratively, understanding that the impact of COVID has hit some areas worse than others. And Mr. President, Chair Rosen, I hope in the next 24 hours, folks rise above politics, do what is right for the whole state, because we are one Minnesota.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Hur.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, the author of this bill, Senator Rosen, for putting time into this. The intent of this bill is to help people, and I would join you in support the context of helping people, but we are facing an unprecedented time of COVID-19 pandemic. So our strategy has to be different. Although putting money into capita in some degree will be okay, but having more money in reserve that target hotspot that exists now and reserve money for hotspot that could occur at any point in time will be a more effective option. Besides that, distribution to Hennepin County and Ramsey County at lower ratio is wrong. When we know the disparity in these two counties is high, not to mention the population density and the racial demographic, and also people with homelessness. We need to have the dollars in reserve in place to help those without home. So I will vote no on this bill, but I encourage Senator Rosen, the author, as I encouraged earlier, to have her work with the House and the governor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I know the time is late, but I just want to say a couple things that I think are very important at this time. Number one, I'm very proud, and we should all be proud in this chamber and through all the other rooms, of our response to COVID-19 and what we have done to address the needs of those that are in need or potentially could be in need. So thank you for everybody on their work with COVID-19 to this date. Also, I'd like to just reiterate what I have heard from you about your response to this bill, that you believe that there should be more money going to the needs that communities are facing currently, that you should be holding some money back, and that there should be money for HCMC. And I just want to say, Trust me, these are conversations that we are having, continuing to have. How do we address these issues that you've brought up with still being fair to all the rest of the citizens and the counties and the cities and the townships throughout the state? Because the last thing you want to do is not fund a county and all of a sudden something happens in their nursing home and it blows up. Something happens at one of their manufacturing facilities and blows up. My little county of Martin County, where we raised the kids, 115 cases of a county of 15,000, 5 deaths. I don't even know the percentage on that, but that's very high. A little town inside that county, Northrop, 211 people, had close, I think, 20 COVID cases in a little town of 211 people. So we have no idea what this pandemic is going to do throughout the state. But trust me, we are listening to your concerns on this bill. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Again, we just wanted to treat everybody fairly, get the money out quickly, a base level funding for preparedness. And I think we are on the right path, and we'll continue the discussions, and I welcome your input. And I would just like to thank very much my staff that I get the pleasure to work with, Ruth Gredvik, who's standing right behind me, Jessica Young, and then, of course, Eric Nauman and Tom Bodern, who I probably abused too much. So with that, I ask for your support on this very important bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 4564 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in 237, room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. I'll call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report no for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes no. Members, we're trying to report votes. Please try to keep it down in the chamber or take your conversations outside the chamber. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Clausen votes yes.
Senator Clausen votes yes. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Champion.
Senator Champion votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Dietzick.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
I report no for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Franzen.
Senator Franzen votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Frentz.
Senator Frentz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes no. Senator Kent.
I report yes for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes yes. Senator Kent.
I report yes for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes yes. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes no. Senator Kent.
I report yes for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes yes. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes no. Senator Kent.
I report no for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes no. I'll now call on Senator Benson to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson B. votes yes.
Senator Anderson B. votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Anderson P. votes yes.
Senator Anderson P. votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Dames votes yes.
Senator Dames votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Hall votes yes.
Senator Hall votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Housley votes yes.
Senator Housley votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Ingebretson votes yes.
Senator Ingebretson votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Jensen votes yes.
Senator Jensen votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Newman votes yes.
Senator Newman votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Osmic votes yes.
Senator Osmic votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Rude votes yes.
Senator Rude votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Senjum votes yes.
Senator Senjum votes yes. Senator Benson.
Senator Westrom votes yes.
Senator Westrom votes yes. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 45 ayes and 22 nays, the bill is passed since title agreed to. Members will move to the 13th order of business, announcements of Senate interest. Without objection, without objection, the following members will be excused from today's session. Senator Champion from 1:35 a.m. to 1:45 a.m. Members, any announcements of Senate interest? Senator Benson?
Mr. President, is there an excuse for Senator Jensen?
Senator Benson, we were just talking about that. We don't know what time he was gone. Nobody reported it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Jensen will be excused from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Any announcements of Senate interest? Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move the Senate do now adjourn until Sunday, May 17th at 11 a.m.
Senator Gazelka moves that the Senate do now adjourn until Sunday, May 17th, 2020 at 11 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The Senate is adjourned.